in the glittering underbelly of New York City, where skyscrapers pierce the heavens like diamond-tipped spears and fortunes, are forge and boardrooms lined with gold. Elena Voss reigned supreme. At 42, she was the epitome of ruthless elegance, a tech billionaire whose empire spanned AI innovations that could predict market crashes before they whispered their first tremor. Her life was a meticulously curated symphony of power lunches, private jets, and penthouse solitude, her heart encased in an armor of cynicism forged from a string of betrayals. But fate, that capricious artist, had a twist in store, one that began on a rain-slicked autumn evening, when Elena's chauffeured limo hydroplaned into a forgotten alley, stranding her amid the shadows of forgotten. There, huddled against the relentless downpour under a makeshift tarp strung between crumbling brick walls, was Jax Harlan. Homeless by circumstance, not by choice, Jax was a towering figure of raw, sculpted muscle. Years of carpentry work had carved his body like one of his own masterpieces, broad shoulders straining against a threadbare flannel shirt, arms etched with veins that told stories of labor and loss. His hands, callous and steady, were tools of creation. He could coax life from splintered wood, turning discarded pallets into intricate furniture that whispered of hidden beauty. But life had been unkind. A workshop fire, mounting debts, and a family that scattered like ashes in the wind had left him on the streets. His only companions a battered toolbox and a guitar he strummed under the moon to chase away the demons. Elena stepped out into the storm, her designer heels sinking into puddles that reflected the neon haze of the city. "Damn it," she muttered, fumbling for her phone, its signal as elusive as genuine affection in her world. That's when she saw him, Jax, rising like a guardian from the gloom, his deep blue eyes catching the flicker of distant lightning. "Ma'am, you all right?" His voice was a low rumble, gravelly yet warm, cutting through the rain like a promise. She waved him off at first, her instinct screaming to retreat to her ivory tower. But as the minutes stretched and help seemed miles away, curiosity, or perhaps desperation, drew her closer. He offered her shelter under his tarp, a humble throne of salvaged wood and plastic sheeting. "Built it myself," he said with a wry smile, rain dripping from his tousled dark hair. Elena, unaccustomed to such unpolished authenticity, found herself intrigued. They talked as the storm raged, she of algorithms that bent the world to her will, he of the simple joy in shaping something with his hands. "Wood doesn't lie," Jax mused, his fingers tracing invisible patterns in the air. "It tells you its story if you listen." For the first time in years, Elena listened, not to market reports or sycophantic advisors, but to a man who had nothing yet everything to give. As the rain eased, her driver finally arrived, horns blaring like a rude awakening. She slipped him a crisp $100 bill, but Jax refused it with a gentle shake of his head. "Keep it. Buy yourself a moment of peace." His words lingered as she drove away, a spark igniting in the fortress of her heart. Little did she know, this chance encounter was a chisel that would begin to carve through her defenses. The next day, Elena couldn't shake the image of him, those powerful hands, that quiet strength. On a whim, she returned to the alley, her security detail trailing discreetly. Jax was there, hammering away at a half-finished bench, his shirt clinging to his sweat-glistened torso in the afternoon sun. "You again," he said, surprise lighting his features. She feigned nonchalance, claiming she needed custom furniture for her latest venture, a pop-up gallery for emerging artists. But it was a lie. She needed something more, something real in her fabricated world. Their meetings became ritual. Jax, wary at first, opened up about his past, the small-town upbringing, the dream of owning a workshop, the fire that stole it all. Elena shared fragment of her own scars. The absent father, the cutthroat climb to the top, the lovers who saw her fortune before her soul. Amid sawdust and sketches, a bond formed, electric and undeniable. He taught her to wield a hammer, laughing as she missed a nail and struck her thumb. She introduced him to fine wine, watching his eyes widen at flavors he'd never imagined. But shadows loomed. Elena's board of directors whispered distractions. Her ex-fiancé, a slick venture capitalist, sensed vulnerability and plotted his return. And Jax? He grappled with pride, refusing her offers of help that felt like charity. One evening, As they sat on his handmade bench overlooking the Hudson, the tension boiled over. "I don't need your pity, Elena," he said, his voice edged with hurt. "I'm not some project to fix." She reached for his hand, her touch tentative. "It's not pity. It's you. You built something in me I didn't know was missing." Their first kiss was a storm reborn, fierce, consuming, his strong arms pulling her close as if to shield her from the world. But as passion deepened, so did the complications. Paparazzi caught wind of the unlikely pair, splashing headlines across tabloids. "Billionaire's secret street romance?" Elena's empire trembled. Investors balked at the scandal. Jax faced jealousy from his street kin, accusations of selling out. Yet, in stolen moments, they found solace. Nights in her penthouse where he marveled at the view, days in hidden workshops where she learned to sandwood until it gleamed. One fateful night, as Elena prepared for a gala, Jax arrived unannounced, dressed in a borrowed suit that strained against his frame. "I can't let you face those vultures alone," he declared. Arm in arm, they entered the lion's den, her world of crystal chandeliers and whispered deals. Whispers turned to stares. Her ex confronted them, sneering at Jax's common origins. But Jax, with quiet dignity, defended her honor, not with fists, but with words that cut deeper than any blade. "Wealth isn't in your bank, it's in your heart. And hers? It's richer than you'll ever know." As the evening unfolded, Elena realized this man, this homeless carpenter with muscles forged in hardship and a soul of pure artistry, had indeed stolen her heart. Not through grand gestures, but through the simple act of seeing her, truly seeing her. But their story was far from over. A greater test awaited when Jax's past resurfaced in the form of a long-lost brother, bringing secrets that could shatter everything they'd built. The morning after the gala, Elena woke to the unfamiliar weight of Jax's arm draped across her waist in the vast expanse of her penthouse bed. Sunlight filtered through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting golden stripes over his bare back. The muscles there shifting subtly with each breath. For a moment she allowed herself to linger in the quiet intimacy, tracing the faint scars from years of manual labor. Reminders that this man was forged in fire, not boardrooms. But her phone buzzed incessantly on the nightstand, shattering the spell. Messages from her PR team flooded the screen. The photos from last night were everywhere, viral sensations with captions ranging from Cinderella in reverse to crueler jabs at Jax's homelessness. She slipped from bed, careful not to wake him, and padded to her office overlooking Central Park. By the time Jax emerged, shirtless and tousled, carrying 2 mugs of coffee he'd brewed in her state-of-the-art kitchen, Elena was already in crisis mode. "They're calling it a publicity stunt," she said, gesturing to the tablet displaying trending headlines. Jax set the coffee down and pulled her into his arms, his warmth a stark contrast to the cold digital storm. "Let them talk. We're real. That's what scares them." Yet reality intruded swiftly. That afternoon, a man appeared at the penthouse lobby, tall, lean, with Jax's blue eyes but hardened by resentment. Security called up, "A Mr. Cole Harlan insists on seeing Mr. Harlan." Jax's face drained of color. "My brother," he whispered. "I haven't seen him in 8 years." Cole Harlan strode into the living room like he owned it, his expensive leather jacket and polished boots a far cry from Jax's worn jeans. "Well, look at you, little brother, trading alleys for penthouses." His voice dripped sarcasm, but beneath it lay something sharper, envy, perhaps betrayal. Elena watched the exchange warily as Jax tensed, his carpenter's hands clenching into fists. Cole had been the one who'd inherited their father's small construction business after the old man's death, the one who'd promised to keep Jax on as partner. But when the debts piled up, Cole had sold everything, claiming Jax's reckless spending on the workshop fire insurance lapse was to blame. In truth, Cole had gambled away the profits, leaving Jax to shoulder the fallout alone. "I heard you're cozy with a billionaire now," Cole sneered, eyeing the opulent surroundings. "Come to collect your share?" He pulled out a folder, slapping it on the marble counter. Inside were documents, a life insurance policy on their late mother, one Jax had never known about, naming both brothers as beneficiaries. Cole had cashed his half years ago, forging signatures to cover his debts. But now, with Jack suddenly in the spotlight. An audit had flagged discrepancies. "They're coming for me, Jax. Fraud charges. But if you play along, say it was a joint decision, they'll go easier." Jax's jaw tightened. "You want me to lie? After you left me with nothing?" The brothers faced off, years of unspoken grief boiling over. Elena stepped forward, her business acumen kicking in. "How much to make this go away quietly?" she asked Cole coolly. He named a figure, 7 figures. That made Jax whirl on her. "No, this isn't your fight." But Cole laughed bitterly. "Oh, but it is. Your girlfriend's money could bury this. Or I go to the press with the real story, how the homeless hero has a brother in prison orange waiting to happen." The threat hung heavy as Cole left, promising to return with lawyers. Jack stormed out to the balcony, gripping the railing until his knuckles whitened. Elena followed, the city sprawling below them like a chessboard of lights. "I won't let him drag you down," she said softly. "I've faced worse sharks." But Jack shook his head. "This is my mess. I won't hide behind your wallet." Pride wore with love in his eyes, and in that moment, Elena realized the depth of his integrity. The very thing that had drawn her to him could tear them apart. Days blurred into a whirlwind of tension. Elena's legal team dug into Cole's claims, uncovering a trail of embezzlement that extended beyond family. Meanwhile, Jax threw himself into work, disappearing for hours to a borrowed workshop in Brooklyn, where he crafted pieces with furious intensity, a massive oak table etched with intricate patterns symbolizing resilience, a rocking chair that cradled like forgiving arms. He refused Elena's offers to fund a proper studio, insisting on earning his way. One evening, as snow began to dust the city, the first flurries of winter, Cole returned, this time with a tabloid reporter in tow, lurking outside the building. Paparazzi swarmed, shouting questions about fraud and gold digging. Jax confronted his brother in the lobby, voices echoing off marble walls. "You destroy us both for what? Pride? Money you already squandered?" Cole's mask slipped, revealing desperation. "You always were the golden boy, Dad's favorite. Even after the fire, people pitted you. Me? I had to scrape." The revelation hit Jax like a hammer blow. Jealousy had fueled Cole's betrayal all along. In a moment of raw vulnerability, Jax pulled his brother into a fierce hug amid flashing cameras. "We lost everything together. Mom, Dad, the business. Don't make me lose you two." Cole resisted at first, then crumpled, the weight of his choices crashing down. Elena, watching from above on security feeds, made a decision. She descended, dispersing the press with a statement about family reconciliation, then quietly arranged for Cole's debts to be restructured. Not paid off, but given a path to repayment through legitimate work. She offered him a position overseeing construction for her new eco-friendly housing initiative, a project inspired by Jax's stories of the homeless community's needs. Cole accepted warily, the brothers beginning the slow mend of fractured bonds over shared meals in the penthouse. Jax, moved by Elena's compassion without condescension, finally allowed her to invest in his dream, a workshop gallery hybrid in a revitalized warehouse district, where he could teach carpentry to at-risk youth and sell pieces that told stories of redemption. As Christmas approached, the city transformed into a wonderland of lights and carols. Jack surprised Elena with a hand-carved jewelry box, its lid inlaid with reclaimed wood from the alley where they'd met, engraved with the words, "You built me a home." Inside lay not diamonds, but a simple key to the new workshop, now theirs jointly. Their love deepened amid these trials, passion igniting in quiet moments. Stolen kisses in the workshop amid sawdust, nights where his strong hands mapped her body with the same reverence he gave to a grain. Yet challenges persisted. Elena's board pushed for her to distance herself from distraction, while old society friends whispered doubts. Jax grappled with imposter syndrome in her world of galas and global deals. One crisp December night, they escaped the rooftop, bundled in coats, the skyline glittering like scattered stars. Jax pulled out his old guitar, strumming a melody he'd written for her, raw, haunting, full of gratitude and fire. As snowflakes danced around them, Elena leaned into his solid frame, feeling truly anchored for the first time. But on the horizon loomed a new shadow, An anonymous email arrived on Elena's private server, containing photos of Jax from years ago, not the noble carpenter, but entangled in a heated argument outside a bar, blood on his knuckles. The subject line read, "Ask him about the night he almost killed a man." The sender promised more revelations that could unravel everything if Elena didn't end the relationship. Her heart pounded as she stared at the screen, the city lights blurring through unshed tears. Jax, oblivious beside her, continued playing, his voice wrapping around her like a lifeline. She closed the laptop, resolving to confront him privately, but doubt crept in like the winter chill. The next day, as Jax worked on a commission, a grand headboard depicting intertwined roots symbolizing unbreakable bonds, Elena delved into the email's origins with her tech team. Traces led back to her ex-fiancé, Victor Lang, the venture capitalist who'd never accepted her rejection. Victor, sensing her happiness as a threat to his ego, had hired private investigators to dredge up Jax's past. The incident in question dated back to the weeks after the workshop fire. Jax, drowning grief in whiskey, had intervened in a street fight where a friend was being assaulted. In defending him, Jax's blow had sent the attacker to hospital with a concussion. No charges filed, self-defense ruled, but the photos painted a violent picture out of context. Armed with the truth, Elena confronted Victor at his sleek midtown office, flanked by her lawyers. "Call off your dogs, or I'll bury you in litigation that'll make your empire crumble." Victor smirked, but the steel in her eyes, tempered now by love's fire, made him back down. That evening, she shared everything with Jax over dinner in their favorite hidden bistro. He listened quietly as she recounted the email, then met her gaze with unflinching honesty. "I was lost then, Elena. Anger was all I had left. But you've given me something to build toward. No excuses, just accountability. And it only deepened her love." Together, they turned the potential scandal into strength. Jax openly shared his story in an interview, speaking on mental health struggles after loss, inspiring donations to shelters. The public, already captivated by their romance, embraced the authenticity. As New Year's Eve approached, Jax planned a surprise. He led Elena, blindfolded, to the newly opened workshop, now named Harlan and Voss Creations. Inside, fairy lights twinkled amid sculptures and furniture. Friends from both their worlds gathered. Street musicians Jax knew, tech innovators from Elena's circle, even Cole, sober and contributing. At midnight, amid cheers and fireworks visible through skylights, Jax dropped to one knee, holding a ring he'd forged himself, white gold intertwined with reclaimed wood, symbolizing their blended worlds. "Elena Voss, you've seen me at my lowest and built me higher than I dreamed. Will you let me spend forever building with you?" Tears streamed down her face as she whispered yes, their kiss sealing promises under the watchful eyes of those who'd witnessed their journey. But even as joy enveloped them, a new chapter beckoned. Elena's latest AI venture required a trip to Silicon Valley, and Jax's first major exhibition was set for Paris in spring. Balancing their worlds would test them anew, and whispers of surprise pregnancy test Elena had taken that morning, still unconfirmed, hinted at even greater adventures ahead. Months later, as cherry blossoms bloomed, they boarded a private jet hand in hand, dreams expanding like the horizon. Jax sketched designs inspired by upcoming fatherhood suspicions, while Elena negotiated deals that incorporated ethical labor practices born from his influence. Yet back in New York, Cole received a mysterious call, an old creditor from his gambling days, demanding repayment with interest, threatening to expose lingering secrets unless Cole betrayed the family once more. As the plane soared westward, the threads of past and future intertwined, promising storms and sunshine in equal measure. In Paris, amid the romance of cobblestone streets and Eiffel Tower glow, Jax's exhibition opened to rave reviews, his pieces selling for sums that astounded him. Elena, radiant in a gown that hid her subtle curve, networked with art collectors, their partnership a seamless blend of heart and hustle. One night, strolling along the Seine, Jax stopped beneath a bridge adorned with love locks. "Whatever comes, debts, doubts, diapers," he grinned, placing her hand on her belly. "We build it together." She laughed, the sound pure joy as he kissed her deeply. But across the ocean, Cole wrestled with the creditor's ultimatum, his redemption hanging by a thread. In California, a rival tech mogul eyed Elena's empire with predatory interest, plotting a hostile takeover disguised as collaboration. Their love, hard-won and fiercely guarded, faced fresh trials that would demand every ounce of strength they discovered in each other. The homeless carpenter and the billionaire now architect a shared destiny rich with possibility. The night she finally chose to stop running from herself did not arrive with drama or thunder. It came softly, disguised as another ordinary evening on the same stretch of pavement where her music had become a quiet legend. The city gathered, as it always did, without knowing why. A familiar hush fell when she lifted the violin. Even the traffic seemed to pause, as if the streets themselves were listening. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in months, she did not play to disappear. She played to remember. The melody was different. It carried beginnings and endings woven together, a confession wrapped in beauty. It spoke of ballrooms filled with crystal light and boardrooms heavy with power, of expectations placed on narrow shoulders before she was old enough to refuse them. It spoke of wealth that insulated and isolated, of a life measured in numbers instead of meaning. And beneath it all, it spoke of freedom, raw, terrifying, and addictive. People felt it without understanding it. Some wiped their eyes. Others stood frozen, afraid to breathe. When the final note faded, no one applauded at first. The silence was too sacred to break. Then she stood, not hurried, not ashamed. She removed the worn cap from her head, letting her hair fall freely, and in that small human gesture, something shifted. She looked around at the faces that had ignored her, pitted her, judged her, and learned to love her music without knowing her name. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady and clear, "for listening when you didn't have to." From the edge of the crowd, the man stepped forward. Tonight, he wasn't wearing the polished armor of wealth. He looked almost nervous. "You don't have to disappear again," he said quietly. She met his gaze, and for the first time, she let him see the truth in her eyes. Not the illusion, not the mask, the woman who had built empires and then walked away from them. "I know," she said. "That's why I won't." The next morning, the world woke up to a name it already depended on. News screens lit up with headlines. Markets paused. Social media erupted in disbelief. The reclusive billionaire heiress, missing for months, had resurfaced. Not at a gala, not behind a podium, but standing in worn clothes on a city street, violin in hand, addressing the press with calm authority. She spoke without notes. She spoke of privilege and blindness, of how easily power forgets the people it never has to look at. She spoke of the way talent is dismissed when it comes wrapped in poverty, of how society trains itself to look past suffering until it becomes invisible. She did not apologize for leaving. She explained why she had to. "I wanted to know who I was without influence," she said, "without protection, without people pretending to care." Some called it a stunt. Others called it genius. But millions listened. She announced sweeping changes, real ones, not charity designed to ease guilt, but systems meant to restore dignity. Education funds for artists without access. Housing initiatives led by people who had once lived on the streets. Corporate policies rewritten to value humanity over profit. And then she did something no one expected. She stepped back, not away from responsibility, but away from control. She appointed leaders who had earned their positions not through connections, but through character. She turned her role into one of oversight, not dominance. The empire would stand without her shadow looming over it. The city felt different after that, not transformed overnight, but altered in subtle ways. People noticed a musicianless corner where she used to play. Some stood there lingering, as if hoping the music might return on its own. One evening, it did, not on the pavement this time, but on a small stage built in a public square. No tickets, no dress code, just people. She walked out to quiet astonishment, dressed simply, violin in hand. The man watched in the front row, pride softening his features. He had learned her truth the night she chose to tell him, and instead of recoiling, he had stepped closer. She played again, but this time she was seen. The applause was thunderous, but she smiled only when it ended. "This," she said, gesturing to the crowd, "is where I belong. Not above them, not beneath them, with them." Later, when the lights dimmed and the square emptied, she walked through the city without guards or cameras. Just a woman and the life she had reclaimed. She passed the old metro station and paused, touching the stone pillar where she once leaned, cold and anonymous. She was grateful for that version of herself, the one who had been ignored, the one who had learned how powerful silence could be. Because now, when she spoke, the world listened. And somewhere in the crowd of that vast, listening world were countless others, unseen, underestimated, carrying gifts no one had bothered to recognize. Her story had become a mirror, reflecting a simple truth people could no longer ignore. You never really know who someone is by where you find them. And sometimes, the person the world overlooks the longest is the one who understands it best.